begin with the federal government's investigation into about 200 whistleblowing tips received over some tax officials and taxpayers involving in the declaration of taxes and alleged demand by taxpayers and receipt of gratification by tax officials, just as the Central Bank of Nigeria removes 36 items from Forex ineligibility list. Let's join Osawana Bisbee for more.
The federal government has begun investigation into about 200 whistleblowing tips received over tax officials and taxpayers involving under-declaration of taxes and alleged demand by taxpayers and receipt of gratifications by tax officials. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, disclosed this in Abuja while presiding over the meeting of the whistleblower unit in the Federal Ministry of Finance. According to a statement by her media advisor, Akintunde Oluyinka, the minister also said the ministry has commenced the process of sanitizing the tax administration and revenue collection system of dishonest operatives. Adeosun said that the sanitization of the tax administration and revenue collection system was part of the government's efforts at enhancing the willingness of citizens to pay their taxes. She confirmed that the Federal Ministry of Finance had requested and secured the suspension of 2 senior tax officials in Delta and Benue states based on verified tips from whistleblowers. The Central Bank of Nigeria has expunged 36 sub-items from the broad list of items that were banned from accessing forex from the Apex Bank's official window since 2015. The president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Frank Udemba Jacobs, disclosed this at the annual media luncheon with journalists in Lagos. It would be recorded that the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria had sustained a plea with the federal government to review the CBN's foreign exchange policy, which placed ban on importers of 41 items from accessing forex in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, noting that some of the items that were restricted from accessing the forex market could not be sourced locally. Giving further clarification on the actions of CBN, Jacob said the 41 items translated to 680 harmonized system codes, with only 95 of them as raw materials. The Central Bank of Nigeria at the weekend intervened in the retail secondary market intervention sales of the interbank foreign exchange market to the tune of $304.4 million. Figures obtained from the bank indicated that the sum, as in previous interventions, were in favor of interest in the agriculture, airlines, petroleum products, and raw materials and machinery sectors. The bank's acting director, Corporate Communications Department, Mr. Isaac Okorafo, confirmed the figures, reiterating that the objective of the CBN remained to boost liquidity, production, and trade. He explained that the CBN would continue to ensure liquidity in the interbank sector of the market, as well as sustain its interventions in order to drive economic growth and guarantee market stability. Speaking further, Okorafo expressed optimism that the Nigerian economy stood to gain massively from the bank's forex management strategy, as could be seen in the accession to the foreign reserves, which now stands at over $14 billion. CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele last week announced the retention of the benchmark monetary policy rate at 14%, the cash reserve requirement at 22.5%. Liquidity ratio will remain at 30%, while the asymmetric corridor will be retained at plus 200 and minus 500 basis points around the MPR as decided at the November meeting of the MPC. This was due to the inability of the committee to form a quorum.
The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, has insisted that the suspension of the Director General Stock Exchange Commission said Mr. Muniru Gwarzo was done in line with public service rules. The minister said this Tuesday when she appeared before the House Committee on Capital Market for the public hearing on the need to intervene in the conflict between the Finance Minister and the suspended Director General of SEC. National Assembly's correspondent Charity Tambo has more.
Following the suspension of the Director General Stock Exchange Commission, Mr. Muniru Gwarzo, the House of Representatives resolved to investigate the reason behind the suspension. The House Committee on Capital Markets was mandated to investigate the matter and reports back its findings to the House. At the commencement of the hearing today, Mr. Munir Gwarzo claimed his suspension was illegal. He said the Finance Minister, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, suspended him because the SEC was conducting a forensic audit on Owando in which she has interest.
The people behind Owando, based on the 5 companies that I said that we investigated, the Alake of Ebaland is the chairman of Owando, and Mr. Adewale Jibrin Tinubu is the managing director of Owando. She told me that she has been told that I should have been sacked. I swear to Allah, that's what she told me, that I should have been sacked, which is very scary.
In her response, the Finance Minister said the DG's suspension was in line with civil service rule. She also disclosed that Mr. Gwarzo was suspended after the ministry had received documents of allegations against him, a situation she said could not allow to continue, especially as it involved a capital markets regulator. Also speaking, the Director Legal in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Christopher Gabriel, noted that the suspension followed due process.
We were receiving information from the staff of SEC that documents were being removed, and we knew that we needed to do a thorough investigation. Of course, that investigation could not be done with Mr. Munir still at the helm of affairs in SEC, and that was when we took the decision to suspend Mr. Munir. As the Director Legal has said, we followed public service rules in terms of doing so.
When the Honourable Minister exercised her powers as the board of SEC, in taking the actions she took with regards to the 2 officers, she was acting as the board of SEC.
Earlier, while declaring the public hearing open, the Speaker, House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara, represented by the House Deputy Minority Whip Wilfred Chukwuka, said the capital markets, which provides the opportunity to strengthen the nation's economy, cannot thrive in an atmosphere of strife.
As a parliament, we strongly believe that the downslide in Nigeria's economy provides the best opportunity for the capital market to fill this gap by taking the lead in contributing massively to economic growth and development. However, these lofty ideals and objectives cannot be realized in an atmosphere of strife, discord, mistrust, and disconnect between and amongst key functionaries of the capital market.
And the Central Bank of Nigeria has injected another sum of $210 million into various sectors of the interbank market. Let's join Blessing Umaro for the details of this and other reports on the business desk.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, on Monday injected another sum of $210 million into various segments of the interbank market. The CBN offered the sum of $100 million as wholesale interventions and allocated the sum of $55 million to the Small and Medium Enterprises Forex window. Customers requiring Forex for business and personal travel allowances, tuition and medical fees, among others, equally got an allocation of $55 million. The Acting Director of Corporate Communications Department at the bank, Isaac Okorafor, confirmed the sales, reiterating that the bank would sustain its interventions in the foreign exchange market. The Debt Management Office said it raised 196.3 million naira through the first auctions of the federal government savings bond issued in the second week of January. The auction results released Monday show a decline in the level of subscription despite the higher rates when compared to the December 2017 auction. The DMO had sold the 2-year bond at 12.098% as against 11.738%, which it auctioned the 2-year bond in December last year. The auction results showed that the DMO raised 73.05 million naira through the 2-year January 2020 paper in 121 successful bids and 123.25 million naira through the 3-year January 2021 paper with 178 successful bids. Last month, the DMO had raised 50.25 million naira through the December 2019 paper and 196.16 million naira through the December 2020 paper. Oil prices firmed up Monday on account of strong demand, a weak dollar, and ongoing supply cuts led by Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and Russia. Brent crude futures were at $70.49 per barrel, 3 cents below their last settlement. Oil markets have been propped up by supply restraints led by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and Russia, which started in January last year and are scheduled to last through 2018. Traders said oil has also been supported by a weakening dollar, which has lost over 3% in value against a basket of leading currencies since the start of this year.
We'll take a quick break now. When we return, the business news summary continues. Please stay with us.
Baby, I've been searching for my only one.
Love is a verb. Show that special someone just how much they mean to you. Need some help? Aha! ITV Reignite the Flame Season 2 is your best bet. There will be games, comedy, music, and an ambience that says, "You mean the world to me." It is quality time guaranteed with loads of fun at Beehives Hotel, Sitec Villa, Gwarimpa, Abuja. Date, Wednesday 14 February 2018. Time, 5 p.m. prompt. Star performance by The Supreme International. For tickets and reservations, call 080-6622-6093 or 070-671-57865. ITV Valentine Dinner. Reignite the flames.
Like the sun was made to shine, and the moon was made for night. The sky is blue, baby, I was made for you. I was made for you.
Independent television is live 24 hours on GoTV, channel 107, Star Times, channel 130. And now you can watch from any part of the world on Roku TV, Smart TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android TV for your favorite programs, news, current affairs, and lots more. You don't want to miss our objective and balanced reportage, entertainment, and sports. Now follow us via our social media channels on Twitter at ITV Radio NG. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ITV Radio NG. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. Visit our website for more news stories and lots more. ITVRadioNigeria.com. Watch ITV via live streaming on the internet. ITVRadioNigeria.com/live and click on the TV stream option. Also remember to visit your mobile app store and download the ITV app so you can watch on the go. Independent television, certainly the best.
You're welcome back, and now to the rest of the business news summary. The Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Ben Akabueze, has emphasized the need for a robust and effective public participation in the budget planning process. He spoke during a 2018 budget dialogue held in Abuja. Blessing Moore reports Mr. Akabueze as saying that such participation will enable the budget to reflect the need and will of the public.
As ministries, departments, and agencies continue to defend their 2018 budgets at the National Assembly, the Federal Ministries of Finance, as well as that of Budget and National Planning, convened a meeting of key stakeholders to again look at the 2018 budget. The meeting, which was held in Abuja, had participants drawn from the media and civil organizations across the country. In his address at the event, the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Ben Akabueze, stressed the need for citizens' participation in the budget planning process. According to him, community participation in the budget process is the best practice all over the world, as the people get involved right from the planning and drafting stages.
The National Assembly will sustain the public hearing on the budget which they initiated last year, because that's very helpful in terms of opening up the space for public participation in the budget.
He further stressed that the 2018 budget proposal was prepared using zero-based budget principles. Hence, MDAs can justify their budgets in details.
The various committees of the National Assembly are engaging with the MDAs, the respective MDAs that they oversight and scrutinizing their budgets in detail.
The Senate has warned Nigerians against investing in bitcoins and asked the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation to launch awareness campaigns on the business. For this and other stories on Business News, let's join Catherine AMSL.
The Senate has warned Nigerians against investing in bitcoins and urged the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation to launch awareness campaigns on the business. Specifically, the upper chamber of the National Assembly resolved to urge the CBN, NDIC and the NFC to make an equivocal statement across the news platforms in all dialects on the dangers of bitcoins as a store of value in Nigeria. The Senate also called on the National Orientation Agency to spread the news against all forms of wonder banks and Ponzi schemes operating in Nigeria. Also, the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and other financial institutions is to investigate the viability of Bitcoin as a form of investment and come up with recommendations on how to control its use and trade in it. The Administrative Panel of Inquiry, which was set up in November last year to investigate corruption allegations against the suspended Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Muniru Kwazu, has recommended the sacking of the embattled DG from public service. The panel, which is headed by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Finance Mahmood Issa Duse, was set up by the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun. In the recommendation, the committee also suggested that the suspended DG should refund the sum of 104.85 million naira, which he allegedly approved and received as severance package while staying in office. The panel also recommended that Kwazu be referred to the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission for further investigation of the allegation of using his position as SEC DG to influence the award of contracts to Outbound Investment Limited. The Senate on Tuesday resolved to conduct an investigation into the spate of illegal charges and deductions from accounts of their customers by deposit money banks. The resolution followed the adoption of a motion moved by Senator Magnus Abi and 22 others entitled Urgent Need to Investigate, Regularize and Amend Conflicting, Vogue and Unjust Remedies which the Central Bank of Nigeria offers to victims of excessive and arbitrary bank charges and illegal deductions. One of the prayers of the motion, which was passed unanimously by the lawmakers, was to urge the government to proactively protect customers' rights, eradicate short payment of interest, and end the culture of excessive and arbitrary bank charges. This step, if taken, will reposition the bank to avert future reoccurrence. The lawmakers also resolved to direct the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and other financial institutions to conduct a public hearing and invite the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, his officials and other stakeholders such as forensic auditors, managing directors of commercial banks and the Bankers Committee. The public hearing, they resolved, would be aimed at harmonizing and amending these laws, rules and guidelines that do not adequately protect the customers and give them substantial remedy when overcharged.
Crude oil production from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, rose in January from an 8-month low as higher outputs from Nigeria and Saudi Arabia offset further decline. Let's join Elvi Gawari for this and more on Business News.
Crude oil production from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, rose in January from an 8th-month low as higher output from Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia offset a further decline in Venezuela and strong compliance with a supply reduction pact. A Reuters survey found on Tuesday that OPEC had pumped 32.4 million barrels per day in January, up 100,000 BPD from December. Last month's total was revised down by 110,000 BPD to the lowest since April 2017. In January, the biggest increase in supply came from Nigeria, where some shipments originally planned for exports in December slipped into January, according to loading programs and tanker data. Top exporter Saudi Arabia boosted output by 50,000 BPD, according to sources in the survey, who cited higher exports for much of January. Supply remains below the kingdom's OPEC target. Still on business, the federal government is planning to stop the Nigerian Customs Service from raiding the markets to seize imported rice, the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, has said. The minister spoke on the outcome of the meeting of the Federal Executive Council, saying that the federal government has approved 1.12 billion naira for the purchase of 50 operational anti-rice smuggling vehicles to check the persistent smuggling of the commodity into the country. Adeosun said the procurement of the operational vehicles, which would be deployed to the anti-rice smuggling task force, was also meant to stop customs officials from invading markets to seize smuggled rice and harassing traders. Nigeria has been ranked 90th in the world and 23rd in Africa on budget transparency, out of 115 countries globally and 38 African countries in the 2017 Open Budget Index survey, which was released yesterday. Nigeria's score on the index dipped from 24% in 2015 to 17% and currently ranks behind Rwanda, Zimbabwe and Liberia in Africa, while South Africa has been ranked first alongside New Zealand globally.
And for Business News Friday, our correspondent is standing by.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has released the Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, report for January, which showed that expansion of economic activities persisted for the 9th consecutive month. The CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, stated that 29 of the 34 sectors surveyed recorded expansion in January. The report stated that the manufacturing PMI in the month of January stood at 57.3 index points, indicating expansion in the manufacturing sector for the 10th consecutive month. The index, however, grew at a slower rate when compared to that in the previous month of the 16 subsectors. 13 reported growth in the review month. The composite PMI for the non-manufacturing sector stood at 58.5 points in January 2018, indicating expansion in the non-manufacturing PMI for the 9th consecutive month. 16 of the 18 non-manufacturing subsectors recorded growth, while the accommodation and food services subsector recorded contraction in the review period. The Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, via its office in the Federal Ministry of Finance, has identified thousands of tax defaulters across the country and has written to them requesting compliance before the expiration of the declaration period of 31st March. According to VAT's office, the defaulters, mostly high net worth individuals, were identified through transaction, income and assets data obtained from the variety of sources following the identification process. VAT's office communicated with them via nudge letters to draw attention to their defective tax status. The letters, the VAT's office revealed, has elicited positive responses from recipients, with many of them visiting or phoning the office to request for more information and declaration and compliance. VAT is currently sending out more letters to other identified defaulters based on transaction data obtained from the Corporate Affairs Federal Inland Revenue Service, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), state governments, Nigerian Customs Service, land registries, as well as payment platforms such as Government Integrated Financial and Management Information System and Remita in the case of tax defaulting companies. The scheme, which came into being last July, is a tax amnesty program that provides a time-limited opportunity for tax defaulters to regularize their tax status. The Naira Thursday depreciated to 360.57 per dollar in the investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market. Data from the Financial Market Dealers Code showed that the indicative exchange rate for the window rose to 360.57 per dollar yesterday from 360 per dollar on Wednesday, indicating a 57 kobo depreciation. The volume of dollars traded in the window dropped by 13% to $279.07 million from $321.21 million on Wednesday.
And that has been the size of our package. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Nkiru.